Good morning, everybody. I'm Erik. This is Marco.
Marco, we look so good in those pictures. They are fully AI generated, clearly. That's a good use for AI.
Marco, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
I would like to begin with a question that I hope will tell people here something about you, Marco. You have an important job at a storied firm. You're the Chief Information Officer and a partner at Goldman Sachs. But if you look for Marco on LinkedIn, you won't find either of those titles under his profile. He's listed as engineer, which I like a lot, actually. I'm thinking of going into my LinkedIn profile and changing my title back to typist. But it made me wonder.
Okay, thanks. God.
Why just engineer?
Well, I mean, first of all, you should change it to journalist. Listen, it's like a profession, right? That's what I am. And so it doesn't matter. Those titles, chief, this, that, I am an engineer. I've been an engineer. It's like someone that is a journalist or a lawyer or a doctor. If you're a doctor, you put MD and that's it. And so that is true to my profession. And by the way, I want to be an engineer. And I think the engineering profession today is actually a very strategic driver for any firm's priority. And that's why I kind of stick to my original title for sure.
I like it. So much in AI is changing so fast, Marco. We have it's tempting, and we tend to talk or to want to talk about all the newest advancements and all the newest challenges. But you've said it's easier and maybe more important to talk about what isn't changing in artificial intelligence. And I find this intriguing, and I'd like you to elaborate for everyone here.
Yeah, so obviously we've been through a time of tremendous change. If you look at model performance, if you look at the league tables, if you look at the use cases, if you look at almost every dimension, things even like at the beginning of this year, they feel almost like ancient history. The rise of reasoning models that then gave birth to agents that then essentially turned into virtual employees. So we live in a time of tremendous change, but in order to navigate your ship to a certain direction, you need to keep your helm steady and look at really like the constellation of things that don't change. What are your fixed stars in this sea of change? And I think some of the fixed stars are the importance of data, which is absolutely fundamental, and I'll say more about that. And then, of course, the importance of how do you take people through this journey. And so the human factor, the human element are more important than ever. Today I say that what technology or what AI can do is ahead of what people accept that they can do with it. So there is a gap there. There is a cultural gap.
Friction.
I think there is friction, but it's also like sometimes fear, right? And this period of transformation for the first time, creates almost like a competitor to the human species, which we never had before, which could be in some cases smarter than us. And the way people face that threat is very different. And some people adopt it and embrace it, and some people are just resisting it. But back to the importance of the first topic that I talked about, why is data so important? Sometimes when we talk with other people in the business and other CIOs, etc., or people are asking me, what's the best advice? And today the best advice is really make sure that you have a great data quality story in your firm, because that will be the single most important determinant of the quality of your AI. Now, what does it mean? What does data quality mean? Data quality means that you not only have data that is correct and non-duplicative, but also that you have data that is easy to understand. And when I say easy to understand, now it's not just to understand for a human, but it's easy to understand for a machine or for an AI. So we found, especially with Goldman, we have created this technology which we call Legend, which is really like a sort of a data quality platform, that all the work that you do in order to establish the right relationships and the right descriptions of your data create this sort of a semantic layer on top of the data that helps AIs tremendously outperform those who don't have that layer and reduce the number of incorrectness and hallucinations really by a factor, like that by an order of magnitude. So the grounding is not only on the documents like RAG and all that, but is also really on the semantics, on the meaning, super important. Now, in the age of agents, that the importance of data actually becomes even more central. And why do I say that? Because in the world of agents, you have planners and you have executors and you have tools. So you have essentially actions that are taken on the data. And a lot of that data is process related. And so if you have sometimes I think about you have two types of data when you drive. One is the map, whether a certain road exists or not, and what's the name of the road, etc. And that's kind of your ground data, your data lake. But then you have another layer of data, which is your traffic signals. And those traffic signals are the semantics layer on top of the data, which tell you whether you can turn right or left, whether it's or is the speed limit, whether there is a traffic signal that goes red or green, and that's the process data on top of the actual data or your metadata. And if you don't have both, and you try to do autonomous driving, you're in a really, in a big world of trouble. And so I think the world of agents really amplifies the importance of that. And so to summarize, the two things that don't change is get your data right. It's even more important in the age of agents. And the second one is work on your people, because the ability to develop this new muscle group of being able to interact with other entities that actually do work on your behalf is very different than the way you've been interacting with the computer so far.
I am quite fascinated by one of the big projects you have underway at Goldman, and I suspect other firms are doing something similar, adapting AI beyond the rote or more mechanistic domains like coding and math and customer service to the harder, more nuanced stuff that requires judgment and intuition, like banking, for example, investing for sure, compliance maybe, lots of judgment there. Tell us about that. Why is this so hard?
This is really kind of the holy grail of AI right now. If you talk to some of these, model providers, especially in the evolution of agents, they will say that the big unlock is whether they can figure out agents that perform just as well as coding agents, but for non-coding jobs, like a controller or an accountant or obviously customer support, but even like a client services person or potentially an investor or potentially an asset manager, like a doctor, obviously, or a statistician, etc., etc. Those are the new. If I actually have to imagine, like a future world where we used to talk about software as a service, and right now the future is like more like almost like a profession as a service, where you're actually selling virtual employees that are doing really well on a specific context, outperforming humans. Now, how do you get there? And why, first of all, why is AI so good at replacing tasks and performing like complex activities in the developer domain or in the math domain? Why is the benchmark for developers in the 96th percentile or so of human activity, and then you have other things like the humanity last exam or things that are more fuzzy at maybe the 20th percentile? It's because one of the techniques that really this year made these models so intelligent is not just pre-training, but also to do reinforcement learning on the post-training side. Reinforcement learning to get them to really specialize on a specific task, to align to a specific set of instructions, and really hill climb the accuracy very rapidly. And whereas it's very easy to give a clear signal to a reinforcement learning whether something is good or not, and you're giving them a direction, whether they're going in the right direction or not. With code, it doesn't compile. With math, it's a wrong number, or you cannot prove or disprove a theorem. What makes a good client pitch book for a pitch deck for a bank? And I mean, you can't really codify that knowledge precisely. Or, there are many domains, like what makes a good investment. Of course, ROI, but there is a lot of what makes a lot of that's ex post, but what makes a good investment thesis? And those are all domains. I remember in a meeting, one day I was in a meeting with a company that was in the kind of fluid dynamics. And there was a very old guy in the meeting, which, by the way, not that I'm young, but I'm saying he was even older. And this guy was like, why is he there? And this person was like, the CEO was saying, he's been here for about 45 years. And immediately looking at the diagram, he can tell if a turbine is going to cavitate. And then we say, the engineers say, absolutely not. On MATLAB simulations or whatever, it doesn't cavitate. Then we spend like $10 million later, it cavitates. And the guy's like, he says, I told you so. How does he know that? Because that is codified in his brain in a way that is not codified in practice. And so I think one of the big challenges that our companies are going through, including us, is how do you kind of create that code of the tribal knowledge in a way that you can give signals to an AI whether something is going in the right direction or not. And those are called technically evals, or there is a company that actually specializes in micro evals, that are basically like, okay, turn left or right in every process step. And I think that is really like the bleeding edge of what's happening right now. And it's going to be really like the bridge connecting strongly verifiable domain type of performance, which is fairly easy, like developers, to more nuanced domain, where unless you're able to codify this knowledge that is tribally in the heads of people, you're never going to be able to get equal or comparable to human performance.
So profession as a service.
Yeah.
Based on what you know now, based on the work that you're doing inside the firm, where do you think you'll be able to make that leap first? What's the first sort of set of tasks or even job description that might be virtualized?
No, yeah, operational roles are kind of the next sort of a domain. So, for example, imagine a lot of, and not only customer support. When I'm talking about, for example, internal IT support, those are people that generally they apply some judgment, but then their actions, they're runbook related. So, if you say, okay, I can't access my email, and then there is a runbook that says, okay, have you tried, like, is your Wi-Fi connected? Does your browser work? Try to reset, restart, et cetera, et cetera. Try to send an email to this address or to yourself, et cetera, et cetera. Those are runbook related. Those are micro decisions. And now on that, we have actually created AIs that are doing exactly that, and we see something like that they rank at the 85th percentile of humans. So the first domain is, maybe it's not exactly, 2 + 2 = 4, but it's hey, there is a runbook, so there is a limited set of actions, and that the sequence of those actions is going to solve your problem. So this is one of the domains. Another one that is obviously is, this has been a long area of work for the whole industry, but KYC, like know your customer, onboarding of clients, where there is a lot of interactions back and forth and micro steps. Like, for example, I'm receiving a driver's license, okay? And it's a Utah driver's license, and and you reside in the state of Washington. How long have you been there? Is it still a valid document for identification? there is a different middle name, or there is there is a lot of micro cases, or audited financial statement for 3 years, but then the company has been in business for 2 years and 6 months. Is that enough, etc. Those, I think, they're absolutely feasible, and those domains can be attacked because, again, you can give strong signals based on, for example, past performance. And then if you keep navigating on that, the whole world of accounting is also another one that is next in line. And then, reconciliations, for example, reconciliation of breaks in trading, and you keep going on, operations as a whole, the middle office and the back office and the settlements and all that. It's all like, the banks in particular, they have thousands of people in those domains. And those domains are the ones where I think we will see efficiency first. Of course, if you project in the future, almost any job potentially could be, at least from a junior perspective, could be replaced by an AI. But I think that is the more nuanced you go, and the farther it is in time. So it's very hard to put a time horizon there.
What would be the last job that gets virtualized?
That's the joke that we say. Will the last person walking out of Goldman Sachs be an engineer or a trader? I don't know. That's why I stick to engineer. Sorry, PR guys in the room. I shouldn't have said that.
How do you measure? I mean, I'm sure you can measure it in dollars, but how do you quantify the sum total of resources that Goldman is throwing at these problems?
In terms of spend, I think I don't think we're disclosing the actual amount of money that we spend. That there's also some competitiveness there. But I think the way I quantify it is in terms of focus and in terms of attention. And so how much of the bandwidth of decision makers is actually put on the topic of AI. And I can tell you that the board, our CEO, our executive team, and our management team, of which I'm part of, right now, we're all asking ourselves the question: how can we rethink the way we do things today in a new lens, where client expectations are going to be reset to a level in which they want instant answers, like they get today from GPT and others, when they open up their phone, etc. Then, obviously, the bar for client experience and client service is going to be so high. The other one is how do you make decisions, and how you make smart decisions, and how long does it take to make a decision? That's another one. Is this going to compress the time to decision, the time to quality decision? So really, we are really being hyper-focused on rethinking every single step of what we do in the light of something that is going to fundamentally raise the bar, especially from a client experience and client expectation standpoint. One thing that I sometimes say, also on the client experience side of things, is client was going to want to go from let's say I'm using a different metaphor, but T+2 or T+1 in terms of when they get their answer, for after 1 day or after 2 days, maybe in complex question, to have T-1 answers, which means that your private wealth advisor or your family office or whoever you're dealing with actually comes to you before you even ask the question, because there are agents that are scouting the market and scouting the news, and they see something like, I don't know, an H-1B change, or a certain geopolitics event, or a shortage of certain material or certain supplies, and then looks at your portfolio, and then all of a sudden says, okay, you might be exposed to this risk, and this is a strategy to the risk. Even before, you can wake up to an event that happened during the night, and then you could have actually okay, here's the people to call, and these are the things to say. And that's really a future that we need to be prepared for.
The question looming over this entire industry, and I'm not talking just about financial services, but artificial intelligence writ large, has come up more than once already in the course of this symposium. ROI, or ROAI if you like. couple of data points we're all familiar with by now. This MIT study that 95% of generative AI initiatives aren't profitable, at least in the enterprise. We recently had the CEO of JP Morgan Chase say that the $2 billion a year they're plowing into AI is effectively breaking even. Give us another data point from Goldman Sachs on ROI.
Well, I think if you look at, for example, if you look at developer efficiency, I think we've said that publicly, but we're definitely seeing developer efficiency on the realm of 20%. And if you look at what that means for a company that has 12,000 plus developers and how much on average developers are paid, and also you look at the rapidly declining cost of tokens, like for example, Anthropic just released Claude Haiku 4.5, which is their latest coding model, which I believe, the price is a third of the previous version. And so it costs like, I think $3 for every token, million tokens in, and $1 for every token, million tokens out, or something like that. But, definitely with those two, developer efficiency going up, the average cost of a developer, human developer, definitely is not going down. But then you see the token cost going. Actually, I can say that seeing a positive ROI on that front today is absolutely possible.
How do you calibrate? And what I mean by that is, how do you know what's now or tomorrow or next week or next month or next quarter table stakes? What you absolutely have to be doing in order to keep pace with the rest of your industry, and what is actually differentiating and what is worth additional investment that is creating something in the order of an AI alpha inside the firm?
I think efficiencies are going to be a competitive differentiation for a relatively short time, maybe 3 to 5 years, as other companies catch up. But then eventually, the best companies are going to be more efficient than before, and that will become table stake. I think what I don't see as table stake is the ability to have the best, so anything that impacts the business and anything that impacts our clients. And so what I don't see as a table stakes is actually, again, back to the previous person of the human. So the human machine interaction that creates a level of service or creates people that are even more extraordinary than they are today. If I say that we take pride as Goldman to have some of the best people in the industry and in the world, I think what's not table stake is actually to have the best combination of people and AI, which will further make this an absolutely differentiator for our clients, and that's why we're focused absolutely on both.
Bankers, as you know, get very anxious about losing the apprenticeship aspect of banking, especially investment banking. They got anxious during the pandemic because everybody was working from home. And now they're getting anxious about AI. How is AI going to change the apprenticeship culture? As the technologist, as the engineer, how do you approach the apprenticeship problem? Are the bankers right that there's something absolutely sacrosanct about apprenticeship, or are they overdoing it and don't actually see how AI is going to help them in the long run?
No, I think apprenticeship is absolutely central. And what I'm seeing, especially with the younger generations and with the kids that are coming out, those are like our digital, and those are our AI natives. And those people have, they have proficiency on AI that, it's like, remember when you see when there is a generational shift, you have your parents that even after 50 years, they can still not use a computer and they keep their mouse, sideways. And I'm almost one of those. And no, and then you see the kids just flying, and I think it's creating a little bit of a generational shift within the same generation, where there is people that are that are really AI curious, and And the apprenticeship sometimes is even between them and how they actually compare notes and how they actually kind of educate the next generation to just live with this. It's a very interesting phenomenon. I think I'm a huge fan of what's coming in terms of this generation of people that are in their 20s today. They have learned that they're born with mobile, they grew up with AI, they know how to use those tools despite their limitations. And I think these people are going to be teaching everybody else how to really be ready for the transformation.
You've done me a huge favor here by styling yourself as an old guy, because I have this question for you. Your career, as some people here might already know, Marco, has spanned the most important eras of the information age. The early stage web, e-commerce, gaming, mobile when you were at Nokia, the cloud at Amazon Web Services. What lessons did you learn along that journey that are proving useful and maybe invaluable to what you're doing now with AI at Goldman?
I think one of the big lessons is that things are very different at scale than they are in the lab. It's a little bit like medicine, right? Where if there's never been a better time in the world to be a mouse today, because all your diseases are cured. Alzheimer, cancer, no problem. But then you go to humans or at scale and things just don't work. And so, like what you see in the POCs, when you see on that, I mean, it doesn't really represent the lessons that you learn at scale. And I tell you that going from a data center to a massive cloud, to go from, like small regional kind of self-services to global networks, to go from 1G to 5G, those things really taught me that at scale things are very different. And the one single pill that you can take is called simplicity. That is the name of the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Marco Argenti.